Hello, friends. Today, we are going to talk about the untold story of Jace Herondale. Keep in mind that the story I'm about to tell you is based on the Shadowhunters saga by author Cassandra Clare. Without further ado, let's get started. Jonathan Christopher Herondale, also known as Jace, is the son of Stephen and Celine Herondale. While he was still in Celine's womb, Valentine Morgenstern kept mixing the blood of the angel Ethereal into his mother's food, and she drank it without knowing what it was. As a result, Jace was born different from other Shadowhunters. Stephen and Celine died on the orders of Valentine, who then ordered the baby to be removed from his mother's womb as he was a carrier of angel blood. At this point, it was thought that Jace had died along with his mother, but in fact, it is believed that he only survived because of the increased amount of angel blood in his body. After faking his death, and that of his real son, Valentine took them both and raised them separately, hoping that one or both would become very powerful warriors, one with angel blood and the other with demon blood. Valentine assumed the identity of Michael Wayland in raising Jace, who grew up as Jonathan Wayland, who were in fact the father and son Valentine had killed to fake their deaths. Jace, believing his father to be Michael Wayland, was raised by Valentine on the Wayland estate, lovingly, but also harshly. Valentine trained him as a warrior, strictly and with occasional beatings, but also treated him with a degree of kindness. Valentine also insisted that Jace learn to play an instrument, and he taught him to play the piano, as well as learning other languages from Valentine. Despite the extremely disciplined upbringing, they shared some father-son moments and lessons that Jace cherished. Valentine instilled in him thoughts such as, to love is to destroy, and to be loved is to be destroyed. In an attempt to teach him this, Valentine gave him a wild falcon to train when he was 6 years old, with the intention of making it a killing partner. After much struggle and time, Jace tamed the seemingly untrainable bird and taught it to love him. Jace excitedly showed it to his father, but Valentine broke his neck, saying he was training it to be obedient, not to love it. Jace cried all night and never cried again for the rest of his childhood. When he was 10, Valentine realized that Jace was too soft for his plans, but he had to go through with them. To do this, he staged his death as Michael Wayland, with Jace hiding there to see his father murdered in front of him, convincing Jace and everyone else of Michael's death. As he had expected when he assumed Michael's identity, Jace was adopted by the Lightwoods, who ran the New York Institute. Once there, Jace became close friends with the Lightwoods, Alec and Isabel. The eldest, Alec, eventually became his para-bataille. One night, Jace, Isabel, and Alec were exploring the Pandemonium Club, where they had killed a demon. There, they were spotted by what they thought was an ordinary girl, Clary Fray. Jace told Hodge, their tutor at the Institute, about her, and he asked them to bring Clary to the Institute. Jace offered to go for her, as he felt a connection to the mundane girl. The disappearance of Clary's mother, Jocelyn, coincided with rumors that Valentine Morgenstern had returned from the dead. The Conclave decided to help Clary find her mother, in the hope that it would lead them to the truth about Valentine. During his adventures, Jace met former Shadowhunter and now werewolf Luke Garraway, New York warlock Major Magnus Bane, the New York Vampire Clan, and its active leader Rafael Santiago, and, to Jace's dismay, Simon Lewis, Clary's worldly best friend. Jace and Clary didn't get on very well at first, as Clary thought he was a rich and arrogant guy. Eventually, they began to care about each other and each other's welfare. One night, when he discovered it was the girl's birthday, Jace invited her to the Institute's greenhouse. There, he told her stories of his childhood, and, unable to ignore the growing bond between them, they had their first kiss. Afterwards, they went to Clary's room, but found Simon waiting inside. When Simon saw them, he assumed they were there for another reason, so Clary tried to explain, but Simon left the room without giving her a chance to speak. Jace, for his part, was hurt by the situation, so he decided to dismiss Clary's guilt by telling her not to worry, as it was nothing special for him either. Despite this, Jace continued to help Clary. Eventually, When Clary retrieved the mortal cup, Hodge's treachery was revealed. Jace was knocked out by Hodge, leaving Clary trapped in an invisible box. Using Jace's ring, Hodge contacted Valentine Morgenstern and gave her the cup and Jace in exchange for his release from the curse. During their time together in Renwick, Jace realized that Valentine was the man who had raised him, posing as Michael Wayland. Suddenly interested in being reunited with his father, Jace decided to side with Valentine. Upon Clary's arrival, Valentine revealed to Jace that they were siblings, which he refused to believe. Luke arrived shortly after Clary and Jace began to tell them about Valentine and Jocelyn's past, which made Jace doubt his father. As Valentine fought Luke, Jace saw the kind of man he was, and at Clary's urging, he finally turned against him. Though he could not help himself, he eventually believed Valentine's lies and convinced himself that he was the brother of the girl he had fallen in love with, which broke his heart. Jace was expelled from the Institute after Maris discovered the truth about his real father, but in reality, she had done so to protect him from an inquisitor who was looking for him. Despite this, Jace decided to stay and confront the inquisitor. Later, for his disrespectful behavior towards the inquisitor Imogen Herondale, Jace was imprisoned in a jail in the Silent City. While in his cell, he suddenly heard the screams of the Silent Brothers, caused by Agramon, the demon of fear, now under Valentine's orders. After slaughtering the Silent Brothers, Valentine visited Jace and told him that he had to kill them to obtain the deadly sword. Meanwhile, Clary, Isabel, and Alec decided to rescue Jace after receiving a call from the Silent City. The Inquisitor believed that Jace had helped Valentine kill the Silent Brothers to obtain the deadly sword, but as the weapon was missing, she could not prove Jace's innocence. After much debate, they decided to allow Jace to stay with Magnus. Later, they visited the Fairy Kingdom. While there, Clary was tricked into eating fairy food, which meant she could not leave with the others. However, Queen Seelie told her that if she got the kiss she wanted most, she would be allowed to leave. When Simon's kiss failed to free Clary, Jace kissed her and successfully broke the spell, upsetting Simon and causing him to leave the group. Back at the Institute, Clary and Jace confronted each other about their feelings for each other. Jace said he didn't see why they couldn't still be together, but Clary said that idea was wrong and that their feelings for each other were wrong. On the other hand, they were forced to bury Simon in a Jewish cemetery for his resurrection as a vampire. After learning of Valentine's plan to turn the mortal sword into a demonic instrument, Jace visited his father, who was hiding on a ship. When he returned from his visit, the Inquisitor locked him in a four-walled energy cage. She then told him of her plan to threaten Valentine in order to obtain the mortal instruments with Jace's life. The boy tried to tell her it wouldn't work, but she didn't believe him. She later managed to escape. Before confronting Valentine, Jace asked Clary to draw the rune of Undaunted on him. On board the ship, Jace found Simon dead and fed him his blood to save his life. The rest of the Shadowhunters soon arrived, and a chaotic battle began on the ship. During the battle, Jace was confronted by Imogen, who apologized and looked at him in astonishment when Jace told her again that he did not know Valentine was his father. Imogen then asked him about the star-shaped scar he had and tried to tell him something, but Jace was annoyed by the Inquisitor's behavior and left her to join the battle. He was attacked by a demon, which overpowered him, and was saved by the Inquisitor, who was mortally wounded in the process. Imogen's last words to him were, "Your father would be proud," leaving Jace very confused. The battle ended soon after. Jace later told Clary that from then on he would act as his brother and nothing more. Jace and the Lightwoods leave for Idris, while Clary stays in New York, having been deceived by Jace, who gave her the wrong departure time. However, Clary discovers the deception and travels to Idris with Luke through a portal. When Clary enters Jace's room, she finds Jace and Aline Penhallow kissing. Jace is shocked and yells at her to go home, that she shouldn't be there, and she leaves in pain. Sebastian takes Clary to Ragnar's house, where they meet Magnus Bane. He paralyzes Sebastian and tells Clary that Ragnar is dead. He tells her that if he has him, he can make the antidote to the potion that is keeping Jocelyn asleep. She agrees and leaves with Sebastian. The two of them go to the Wayland's house and take the white book. There, Sebastian kisses her. Clary pulls away and tells him it's not right. When Clary returns to the house, she meets Jace, who apologizes for shouting at her. When Jace and Clary go to Wayland Manor, they find a cellar. In it, they discover a laboratory. Ithuriel was chained there by restraining runes. The angel showed Jace and Clary how Valentine was experimenting with his blood in the same lab. This blood was given as medicine to Celine Herondale while she was pregnant, as well as to Jocelyn Fairchild, whom Valentine, in an attempt to make Jocelyn feel better, as she was depressed at the time, gave the angel's powdered blood in her food, not knowing that she was also pregnant with his daughter Clary. Valentine also held the angel to tell him why the Shadowhunters had been created, and when he got no answer, he left it in the house. After these visions, Jace gave the angel a seraphic knife called Ithuriel, and Clary exchanged the runes of retention for those of liberation. When the angel committed suicide, the house began to collapse, and Jace and Clary, realizing it in time, managed to escape. During the Battle of Alicante, Jace finds Sebastian and confronts him, discovering that he is the son of Jocelyn and Valentine, poisoned with demon blood, and that Jace is actually the son of Celine and Stephen Herondale, sustained by the blood of the angel Ithuriel. Eventually, with Isabel's help, he kills Valentine's son and goes to find Clary, who is being held by a rune that prevents her from moving or speaking. Seeing her, Jace confronts the man he has believed to be his father for years, but is overpowered and kills him, using his blood along with the mortal instruments to summon the angel Raziel, who kills Valentine for his dark heart and Clary's intervention in the summoning, and grants Clary a wish, anything she wants. Clary simply says, "Jace," and the angel, understanding what she means, resurrects him before disappearing. Jace has terrible dreams in which he kills Clary, so he decides to distance himself from her. This causes Clary to question his feelings, but he assures her that he still loves her. Faced with another particularly vivid dream, he tells her the truth, and they both go to see the Silent Brothers. They tell them that Jace needs a ceremony performed by a Silent Brother and an Iron Sister, which all Shadowhunters receive at birth, because having come back from the dead, he has lost the protection against demonic influence that this gave him. Jace stays behind to perform the ritual, but is completely possessed by Lilith, an older demon who orders him to kidnap Clary. Jace goes to Jocelyn and Luke's engagement party, where he tells his bride that they need to have a special rune made if they are to be together for life. And Clary, unsuspecting, agrees, but the rune Jace makes for her is not what she thought it would be. The rune knocks Clary unconscious, and when she wakes up, she meets Lilith. She tells her that she plans to resurrect Sebastian, because since Clary asked the angel Raziel to resurrect Jace, she could do the same to Sebastian for the dark side. She then tells him that Jace has a rune that binds him to Sebastian, condemning him to suffer for every wound the Morningstar suffers. Jace and Clary's friends appear and confront Lilith, who is defeated thanks to Simon and the Mark of Cain. However, during the conflict, Sebastian disappears, taking Jace with him. Jace is being manipulated by Sebastian, who is hatching a plan to destroy the Shadowhunters' legacy. And under the spell of the rune that binds them, he does not think or act like the real Jace. One night, after a frantic and desperate search, he shows up at Clary's house and suggests that she and Sebastian leave. She tries to buy some time by asking him to let her think about it, but Sebastian also shows up at the house, where there is a small confrontation, and Luke is badly injured by demonic metal. The next day, Clary and her companions go to Queen Seelie, who tells them that she will help them if they retrieve certain rings from the Institute. Clary steals the Queen's fairy rings, but, driven by an idea, decides to keep them for now, giving one to Simon so she can communicate with him while he is with her brother and boyfriend, and accepts Jace's proposal. He takes her to the flat he shares with Sebastian. They tell her that they're planning to kill the older demons in order to wipe out that race. And although Clary knows they're lying to her, she plays along so as not to arouse their suspicions. Jonathan sends Jace to kill an Iron Sister called Magdalene, because Sebastian got enough Adamas for her to make a demonic equivalent of the mortal cup to turn shadowhunters into darkened shadowhunters, and he didn't want Magdalene to give him away. When he kills her, however, she uses a special dagger to wound him in the rune that binds him to Sebastian, and for a short time, he is himself again. During this time, he tells Clary that he intends to surrender to the clave for as long as he is conscious. Fearing the consequences, she stops him and Sebastian restores the rune. Sebastian forces her to travel with him to Ireland, where they meet several Nephilim who have been transformed into darkened by the infernal cup. Clary and Jace's friends then arrive, along with several Nephilim and underground allies, and the Battle of the Burren ensues, with Clary stabbing Jace with Gloriosa, the sword given to Simon by the angel Raziel that would save Jace if his soul had enough good in it. Jace manages to survive the impact of the angelic weapon, though his body subsequently absorbs the heavenly fire from it, and Sebastian, now deprived of his best ally, retreats with his new minions. In New York, Jace practices relaxation exercises in an attempt to contain the fire within him. They are then summoned to the Institute, where they are informed that they must return to Idris that night, as Sebastian and his Dark Ones have attacked several of the institutes. Clary later meets Jace in a weapons shop, where Clary gets her new sword, the Hierosphoros. As they leave, the two end up kissing passionately in an alleyway, but when they part, Jace finds that he has burned the area of the wall where he had placed his hands. This gives them the idea that Jace's fire could be used to kill Sebastian. After this, an alert is received that Sebastian intends to attack the infracted citadel, and the pair go to defend it. During the battle, Jace is confronted by Sebastian, who manages to outrun him and wound him in the shoulder. Instead of bleeding, Jace's wound begins to emit fire. At this point, the Iron Sisters arrive and force Sebastian to retreat, while Brother Zachariah forms a rune in his hand and places it on Jace's shoulder to save him, setting himself ablaze with celestial fire in the process. After spending a few days in the Basilius, Jace recovers and discovers that his fire has somehow changed Zachariah, returning him to a state before he carried the Brotherhood's runes unharmed. The Clave are told by Sebastian that he wishes to be handed over to Jace and Clary, and although the consul refuses, the pair, along with Alec, Izzy, and Simon, decide to track down Sebastian themselves to retrieve the hostages he has taken for negotiation, namely Magnus, Raphael Santiago, Meliorn, Luke, and Jocelyn. They are then forced to pass through Fera. At the Seelie court, they have a small confrontation in which Jace threatens to kill the Seelie queen if she doesn't help them cross over and reach Edom. She agrees, but only to tell Sebastian, her lover, that they are on their way. On the way to Edom, they meet Mark Blackthorn, now a forced member of the Wild Hunt, and Jace gives him his Stone of Light. Once in Edom, they manage to survive the demon attacks and take refuge in some caves. However, Jace goes out on patrol and is tricked by a shapeshifter, in the form of Sister Magdalene, who changes him to the point where he unleashes heavenly fire. When Clary finds Jace, she uses her new sword to seal all the fire in its blade with a new rune. The next day, they go in search of Sebastian and arrive at the ruins of the Alicant of Edom. They enter what used to be the Hall of Agreements and are suddenly attacked by another group of flying demons. There are enough of them that one manages to hurt Izzy, so Clary makes a portal back to the cave they were in. They spend another night there, during which Jace and Clary sneak off to some sort of underground lake, where they make love for the first time. The next day, with Isabel now recovered, they return to the ruins of Alicant. Clary and Jace meet Sebastian in the guard drawing room, while the other three go in search of Jocelyn, Luke, Magnus, and Raphael, though it is too late for Raphael, as Sebastian has killed him for refusing to betray Magnus in his favor. Sebastian knocks Jace unconscious, then bargains with Clary, offering to be her queen in exchange for sparing everyone else's lives. She agrees and sits on the throne beside him, which is how Jace finds her when he comes to. This is only Clary's plan, however, so that she can get close enough to attack him with the Hierosphoros, stabbing it through his heart and turning it into pure celestial fire. Once this is done, Sebastian's demonic essence burns away, and in his last minutes of life he becomes Jonathan, the green-eyed boy he should have been, and his only conscious act as a good person is to destroy the infernal cup before he dies, so that the Dark Ones die with him. Jace and the others make it back to Earth thanks to a favor from Asmodeus, Magnus's father, in exchange for Simon's immortality and his memories of the Shadow World. As for Simon, Jace, Clary, and the others keep an eye on him, and when they discover that he still has residual memories of his world, they manage to restore some of his memory and get him to accompany them to Luke and Jocelyn's wedding at Three Arrows Farm, where the whole group is reunited and Jace and Clary declare their love for each other once again. After the Dark War, Jace continued to date Clary and serve as a shadowhunter. Jace and Clary eventually succeeded Maris as directors of the New York Institute, becoming valued members of Nephilim politics at a relatively young age. In the midst of Isabel and Simon's engagement party in 2012, Jace proposed to Clary. His response was interrupted by Magnus and Robert when they were taken to the Los Angeles Institute on a mission. When they returned, Clary rejected his proposal and asked for more time. Confused and hurt, Jace gave her space, though he couldn't help but wonder what he had done wrong, even though she assured him that there was something wrong with her. What he didn't know was that Clary had rejected him because she feared she would die young, leaving him a widower. With the cohort gaining power in Idris, Jace and Clary go on a mission to Farah to find a weapon Sebastian is said to have left there. On this mission, they are captured by King Nosili, and their absence from the mortal world is used by the cohort's leader, Horace Dearborn, to declare that they have been killed by the fairies, making them martyrs in their fight against the fairies. However, Jace and Clary manage to escape and reappear at the first meeting of Livia's guard, whom they accompany to Alicante to confront Horace and his radical shadowhunters. During the battle, Julian Blackthorn and Emma Carstairs transform into true Nephilim, and when they lose control, Jace confronts them and is badly bruised. He survives, however, and is the one who proposes Alec as the next consul. After the wedding of Alec and Magnus, Clary takes Jace to the orangery and proposes marriage to him, giving him a sword with the inscription Vina mi in matrimium ducere. There, without answering, Jace reveals that he will ask her the same night with 2 rings made of adamas, also with an inscription L'amor che move il sole e l'altre stelle, the love that moves the sun and the other stars, on each of them. They became engaged on the spot and consummated their love. What did you think of the whole Jace Herondale timeline? What other character would you like us to talk about on the channel? Let me know in the comments below.